Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's program brought to you by Kensington and Chelsea Libraries. We apologize, we are starting a little bit late. We had some technical issues just before coming on air. In any case, good evening. Welcome to this program, which is going to present some family history through poetry and art. My name is Nina Rizoli Ajdaic, and I am a librarian in Kensington Library and have been for the last 25 years. So tonight I thought I'd share a bit of my family history with the help of some friends, some very talented friends. This evening's library presentation is about names, family names. And the poem you're about to hear is, and the accompanying art you're going to see, are all based on a true story, which has a particular significance to me personally, but which I hope has elements that all of you can relate to and enjoy. The poem is by Nick Lipley. It's called The Blacksmith and the Bull, or How a Dragon Was Born. And the art is by my wonderful friend, Sonya Radan. Nick is going to give you a short introduction into the poem and then read it for you. That will take about 15 minutes. And then we'll be joined by painter Sonya, who is going to talk about her splendid art that accompanies this poem. And then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to use the chat function and we'll read them out and try our best to answer them. So without further ado, it's a pleasure, great pleasure to introduce Sonya and Nick. Welcome, guys.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks, Nina. I'll take it from here. So just for a moment or so. Good evening, everyone. Hoping you're all well. Excuse me. Thanks to the technology we've all been getting used to over the COVID pandemic, waves 1, 2, etc. I'm speaking with you not from my usual little office in northwest London, but from in front of a magnificent bull ring, which you'll see behind me. Imagine it's a sweltering summer's day and we're in the middle of the Balkan Peninsula in Southeast Europe. This bull ring is going to be the setting for a large section of the poem, The Blacksmith and the Bull, which you'll be hearing in just a moment or so. But as well as asking you to relocate temporarily to Bosnia and Herzegovina, without the need of an expensive PCR test, I'll hasten to add, I'm going to ask you also to come back with us in time about 200 years or so to the middle of the 19th century, when the Balkans, which you can see on the screen now, or a map of the Balkans there, was part of the immense, though at that time a waning Turkish Ottoman Empire. You can see the little green flag there with the moon, crescent moon and star. Yes, that's there. The poem itself has been inspired by the story of one particular family living in the Balkans, Nina's family, in fact, the Kovacevic family. Kovacevic, that family name is based on the Slavic word for blacksmith, kovac, and the poem explains, admittedly with some artistic license, how it became Ajdaic, which is based on the Turkish word for dragon, ejderha, which is why also The Blacksmith and the Bull has the subtitle, How a Dragon Was Born. As I say, the story is set in the Balkans, specifically Bosnia, where Nina and the artist Sonya are from. But the poem is written in the style of an Old English epic. So really, I'd like to think of it as a fusion of Balkan and Britannic. So you'll hear reference, for example, to Travnik, the then capital of Bosnia. You can see modern-day Travnik on your screens now, minarets and trees and pointy roofs and all of that. You'll also hear reference to the river Lashva, the royal cities of Bobovac and nearby Sutjeska, which you can see on the map there. I think you can see top leftish is Travnik, and then you see the little blue line with the river Lashva. And there's also the towns of Bobovac and Sutjeska, or Sutiska, as it's described there. And you'll also be hearing about, early on, about references to traditional Balkan food, such as burek pastries, but there's also going to be lots of good, strong alliteration and acts of daring do. You'll also hear modern Bosnian, Croatian, Serbian words, such as the fusion of bik for bull and Olimpiada, as in Olympic Games, to form Bikiada, a full-on fair and bullfighting festival. As you can see, the picture you see here is one such which Sonya and I went to. These are still important events in the Balkans that gather huge crowds. So we have names and landscapes and history. But also, I've also tried to explore the deeds that are attached to our names, the good and the bad that we do in our lives. This is one reason why I've chosen a few words from Seamus Heaney's Beowulf as the poem's epigraph. As you can see on the screen now, behavior that's admired is the path to power among people everywhere. You'll see all the strong P's in that last sentence there. So I hope you enjoy the poem. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the poem. I hope you enjoy the artwork that follows and that you'll see throughout the presentation. Nina, shall I start?
Yes, please. Go ahead, Nick.
Thank you. Okay, lovely. Thank you. A moment. Please put down your pints. Take a break from your bubbly burek and beans. Everyone, welcome on this May Day weekend. As part of this party's proceedings, a tale. So tether your tongue a tad to note how Nina won her noble name, Ajdajic. You don't need me, an Englishman, to attempt a pastiche of an epic past, that of the Balkans, bloodied and battered at times, but honed with humanity, honor, exceptional deeds, and extraordinary dreams. Allow me license, like many lands. But for Nina's story, let's set the scene. Bosna, long overwhelmed by the Ottomans, persistent, pushing deep into Europe, a mighty moon-bannered empire from the east, exacting taxes and men for their armies abroad and at home. Tenacious collectors toured the towns, seeking levies for the Sultan and themselves. That year, the Turkish yoke chafed hard. Bad harvests, high prices, another rout by the Russians, their ruler, Tsar Nikolai, testing Istanbul's nerve. But oppression breeds obsession. Inquire of an imperialist of any age. Old families rose in righteous revolt. The Jovanovici, Pavlovici, and Vidakovici, the Radani too, all resolute, between them the boldest of the Bosanci. Also, the acclaimed Kovacevic clan from Kraljeva Sutjeska, once kingly quarters and royal residence of Queen Katerina, hidden among high mountains and monks, confounded finally by Mehmet el Fatih, the conqueror of Constantinople. But as the great may grant glory for all, so the miserly and mean can sow misery. Take Turul, a local taxman, not much upstairs, but enough to know the views and resolve of the vexed governors, how the families had fallen from favor. Reckoning on right revenues, irrespective of right or wrong, this cunning collector came on his rounds, bypassing Sucheska's busy bazaar to where the workshops were, with an eye to exercise his excise expertise. Now, the Kovacevic number included one Nicola, black-haired and burly with a bit of an overbite. Like his famous forebears, a forger of iron, but though tried and trusted and a master of metal, business had been bad, the order books bare. So when Turul turned up, trouble. Cough up, Kovacevic, crowed Turul. It's time to deliver your dues. If you don't, and he paused as he priced up the premises, gauged what he'd get for the goods and the gear. Imagine, if you will, immeasurable injustice. Our man Nicola manacled by mischief and greed. Idudani, Idudani. Relieved of his livelihood, our hero lived through days of despair and destitution. But as summer began, a bikiada, a full-on fair and bullfighting festival, came to Nicola's notice at nearby Travnik. To gain the ear of the Ielit's governor, what better way than to try in Travnik, with her minarets and madrasas, merchants and markets drawing in trade from the Danube to Dalmatia. Petition perhaps the Pasha himself, pictured our protagonist as he prepared to depart. Rallying late by the Lashva, our blacksmith followed the flow of the townsfolk, beguiled by the prospect of beastly battles and also the promise of money and marriage. This corrida a carnival where contracts are crafted and family futures agreed and fulfilled. Presently, he arrived at the appointed plot, the paths packed with peddlers plying sunflower seeds and souvenirs, all veiled in smoke from the spit roast lambs. Out of the sun, stout stockmen soothed and tended their taurine treasures. And meanwhile, in the middle of the meadow, the arena, the raya already around, the centerpiece spectacle Nicola sought. He beat and elbowed himself to the barrier and saw, spread out in the heat, the hoof-scored ground and green-pennoned grandstand. Without warning or waiting an instant, he vaulted the perimeter fence, paced to the pavilion to address the dignitaries installed on their dais. The crowd was cut silent like a crop of corn. Parties of picnickers put aside their repast. Youngsters stopped, as still as the stones. What do you want with this wise guy swaggering? This from the sire at the center of the stage. I am Blacksmith Kovacevic, Sucheska born, and I'm here to propose my plea to the Pasha. I am he, I am Narmik. Now why this nuisance? So Nicola told of the taxman Turul. But Narmik was nervous on account of his captains, a Pasha of a province on the point of revolt. So he said, listen, Smith, we can sort all this out. But tomorrow in town, come, we'll talk. Quite right, risked a joker speaking from the rear. There's by far enough bullshit already for us here. But this one lander landed like lead because our brave blacksmith would not budge. No heading home without hammer or tongs. You want a fair fight? With one hand, I'll floor any fiend, announced Nicola in front of the nobles. I challenge the sturdiest stud you select. Ibrahimovic, high-born and bookish by nature, and coal-eyed Karamehmedovich too, even tall Spahovic, hearty and handsome, sucked their teeth and tugged their moustaches. These long-titled gentlemen looked to their lord, waiting watching for what he would do. "Bring out the creature they call Karagöz," Narmik proclaimed to the clamor of the crowd, and he smirked as the heavyweight sauntered into sight. What a monster, massive and mean, a shimmering shadow of sheer power from the tip of his nose to the tassel of his tail. Did our fellow falter, flee the field? Steadfast Nicola stayed at his station, the spectators silent as Karagöz came on, till the principal players were just yards apart. Then a wag in the crowd wolf whistled, and the brute bellowed back. Brain and brawn, this blacksmith, this bull, face to face, their fates entwined. But as the animal lowered his horns to attack, our hero advanced, raising his arm. Had he determined, delirious, to deal a hammer fist blow to that anvil-like head? No, not our Nicola. Instead, he leveled his hand to align with the nostrils, grasped Karagöz with forefinger and thumb, and pincered the septum like a proper nose ring. His rank-reeking roar would make anyone reel, but Nicola's grip grew only graver. And slowly he twisted his wrist with such torque that the bull had no choice but to turn his head to. No other response. Then a stumble, a stagger, a scuffle of hooves, a circling storm, until one knee buckled and then the next, and incredibly, the devil was down in the dust. You can conceive how the crowd went crazy, a mashup of magic and unbridled mayhem. All this observed by their Osmanli overlords. Narmik knew when acknowledgement was needed, so he stood on the scaffold, called for quiet, and spoke, a voice without waver, a voice with conviction. "Kovacevic, it's clear your adversary's cowed. The blast from your breath must have brought him down. You're doubtless a dragon, daring and dreadful. Aferin Ejderha Effendi, arise." The words whirled round, an autumn wind, inflaming affection like a field fire. Ejderha, Ejderha, Ajdaya, Ajdaya. And as day succeeds night, a dragon was born. This narrative now is nearing its end. So I'll offer my thanks, but also a thought. In this world in which power waxes then wanes, let us learn to live up to the legends of our names. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. It really is an interesting description of a time long gone, and now we should probably have a look at the works of art that you saw little examples of next to the poems we did. So I'd like to invite Sonya to tell us a little bit more about her work, which came about as part of this project. What was her inspiration? Go ahead, Sonya.
Yes, hello, good evening. As Nina said, my name is Sonya Radan, and I'm a figurative artist and usually paint with oil or acrylic on canvas. I also work with glass or painted on silk. But the sculptures presented as a part of this event were produced in a new medium for me. This is acrylic on wood. I really always love discovering new mediums. A few years ago, on my walk to a local swimming pool, where I was finding inspiration for my new swimmers series, I came across a new material I could work on. That was discarded timber from local skips. With so many refurbishment of Victorian and Edwardian houses in our part of London, you can always find a skip in front of somebody's house. So I started to collect these discarded pieces of wood to create my new wooden sculptures. And I thought first of them as an enormous trees, giving protection and shelter to all sorts of creatures underneath. Then I thought they were cut down, but in a way continued living as parts of people's homes, providing warmth, security, and shelter to the generations and families. And now, as a sort of reparation, a renewal, I've decided I should heal these old blocks of wood, saving them from certain fate and bring them back to life. This time with a new artistic character, shape, and often a face. I felt like this wood wanted to be touched, wanted to be useful, wanted to be beautiful again, and to protect us against evil. I thought of them like a small totem, really. And I thought if I have them in the house, I save them somehow, or they saved me. And I felt I could make this happen through my art. I had special connection with these pieces of wood, and working with them somehow has helped me to feel less sad about the Sarajevo I have lost. At the same time, it has helped me feel more connected to my new hometown, London. And by healing them probably at that time, what I remember, I healed also myself. Now I tell you a little bit more about all these pieces I painted, and actually it's only 12 pieces, and they all have similar dimensions. They're 30 to 35 centimeters high, 20 to 27, 8 wide, or 3, 4, 5 deep. I wanted to show a big story on a small surface and on a different but natural material. Those blocks of wood are natural material and something from the past, like our history. Almost all 12 pieces are painted with acrylic on prepared wood. On several pieces, I glue canvas and then painted on it. On the others, I also added the small pieces of fine needlework or crochet. And now I can show you a few examples. They are really very close to me. A main piece there for me is Katerina. And you see with Katerina, I actually painted Katerina very realistically, almost like a Renaissance paintings, but I wasn't happy with that. And I didn't feel so excited about that. But also I didn't want to overpaint it. And then I came to an idea to use paint tubes, and start painting over that existing portrait. Later, I added few roses on her head as a crown, and I thought roses can die, but they don't have to die. They can dry, but they don't have to die. I could have probably put a metal crown, but I decided I wanted to give her some feminine touch. And I think with the roses, I achieved that. The first from the book, I can show you the smallest piece. It's called Empire. And on this really small piece of wood, I wanted to show the power of the Ottomans and the vast area they ruled over, with a crescent moon and the star above. The star, as you can see, it's a fine needlework, which has great shape and even looks like a star. I did really just glue it, and all piece was ready. Then maybe I can show you another piece, which I think is very, very interesting. It's quite abstract. This is a drawing. It was already shown, but now that they are here, I want to show you from the sort of from my studio. And Travni got that sharpness, sharp wood, which represent roofs and minarets of the town. And the metalwork represents city doors and houses. Travnik, as Nick mentioned, was the capital of Bosnia at the time. And I put a lot of needleworks, and that reflects tradition and the complexity of the society. I can really go over every piece, but for this piece is got something common. They are all painted in red, black, and white, grayish, and most of them got, as you remember, Nicola, he got nails, and most of the pieces, as I said, they got the nails, which represent really the wounds of Nicola, the bull, and Bosnia. I think you really got a picture of all of this, what I wanted to achieve, but now I can tell you a little bit why did I do it. Nina's story was inspirational for me too. Nick's involvement in and his extensive research into the history of Bosnia, then getting up early to write before going to work, gave me an idea and a desire to illustrate his poem. When Nick was writing, I couldn't really wait for the next morning to hear more about Nicola and his troubles. It was already April, and our annual May Day party in the garden was approaching. And we decided to finish everything in time for that. We put all our efforts, and we really were ready for that party. About 50 people came that year when Nick gave his first reading. Then we started thinking about making a book, and we designed, edited, and printed one by ourselves. Nina, when she heard the version in English, she really wanted to translate that in Bosnian, Croatian, Serbian, but other friends also helped with the preparation of printing the book. The Yugo-English collaboration worked really, really well. Won't mention all names, but all of you people, thank you. I hope you are all now seeing us in this way. But my dearest friend Susanna, really, I want to mention because she especially came from Zagreb just for that occasion to read at the Bosnian embassy. We also read in a Jewish club, Shalvata, in North London. And after that, Nick and I show our work in lots of places in ex-Yugoslavia, in Bosnia, in Herzegovina, in Serbia, in Croatia, and tonight in front of you in a different way. But I really, really hope you are enjoying this evening. And thank you all for coming. That's my little talk about my art and about what I did and how I felt about the blacksmith and the bull. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you, Sonya. This was lovely. We had the pleasure of seeing while you were talking the pieces on really nice slides and with Zoom, so people could see what this work involved. And especially, we're still seeing the slideshow. You can see the rusty nails that Sonya has brought back to life, turned into art, and it's now sheltering us all from evil. She has in her hand, which I will show you now, she has, oh no, you won't see her, you will be seeing me. In her hand, she has the booklet that she's talking about. So Sonya, say something and you'll come on screen.
Unfortunately, if you want to buy a book, you can't because we sold all pieces. Sorry about that, but this is a book we put a lot of effort. And thank you all once again to help us with this project.
Okay, so we've got, guys, if anybody has any questions about Nick, his inspiration, how he came, you know, what it meant for him to write this poem. We heard about Sonya's creative process. Nick, do you want to tell us a bit more about how it was for you then?
How it was, how I, what inspired me to write this, or the actual process? Because I think if it's to do with what inspired me, a slightly leading question there, Nina, because it was you who inspired us, or you who inspired me, because of the story you told us one afternoon or one evening or one morning or whenever it was that you told us. So maybe you could give a little bit of background about what you know, the story behind your family.
Okay, so maybe that might be in order, because this whole epic poem that you heard actually came out of a shortest story there is about my family name, which was recorded in the large monastery, which is located right next to the village my father is from, which appears in the poem called Kraljeva Sutjeska, or the King's Dome. So the story goes that the story as it was related to me, and the story which I kind of adopted as a gimmick almost, as a party piece to regale friends at parties, is that this ancestor of mine, Nicola, did come across people trying to overpower a huge bull, and were not getting anywhere. He came and said, "Can I try?" And in our story, he punched the bull once, and the bull fell to the ground. And from that moment on, this man, who was a blacksmith, and the family had been blacksmiths through generations, was being called Aždajić, which means, Aždaja means a dragon that blows fire. And he didn't like it at all, particularly because the term is derived from a Turkish word, and they were a Catholic family, so he didn't like it at all. But just by the law of entropy, basically through the years, this can be followed in the libraries of this monastery. The name Kovačević was so common, the same as Smith or Blacksmith here, that it soon fell off the family tree, and we remained Aždajićes since then. And for people who are not from our parts of the world, it is quite a striking surname when you hear it. It's very unusual, and still to this day, it's always a talking point, even since I was a child. But that was it, really. I really didn't, in my head, go beyond imagining that scene. And then when I heard Nick's poem, it was really like somebody opened a window onto something that I could recognize so well from this part of Bosnia. You can see behind me, I've put a picture of this lovely gate. This is in Travnik as well. And it's wonderful to be reminded of the legends of our names, as Nick says. Okay, so we've got some comments here. Nermin Dal says, "A wonderful poem and paintings. As a Travnik native, I am deeply touched by the story and the art it inspired." Hvala, and hvala to you, Nermin, for coming along. We've got Sally Young saying that she found it captivating. And please, Sonya, could you do a reprint? And Nick read and spoke beautifully, not to mention what a wonderful composition. So it seems people have enjoyed it. Tara says, "Well done, guys. Wicked as always." Idanagi, "Will there be a recording link to the attendees who could not get?" Yes, there will be a link sent out. We have recorded this. Anna Maria says, "Hello from the Pavlović Serda household in Zagreb, Croatia. Thanks, dear Sonya, for the mention of Susie. Thank you, dear Nick, for a wonderful reading, and Nina for organizing the event. So there you go. Nick, maybe you can help me with the field, at least reading some of these. There's Simon G, who says, thank you for a fascinating reading and associated artwork. I remember seeing a documentary about this staff risking their lives during the bombings to save the library books from destruction during the Bosnian War. Thank you for your inspirational work. Yes, unfortunately, a lot of our heritage, even from the medieval times in which the poem is set, has been destroyed, looted, taken away. So today researchers who want to go and research this part of Bosnian history actually have to go to places like Vienna, Budapest, Rome, Istanbul, to find artifacts and find the actual information. So that tells us about the world, medieval Bosnian world and life. And it is very surprising what can be found. I think it would be wonderful for us if there was a lot more research done into our heritage, because it's so rich and so wonderful, and not a lot of it is actually in our hands, as it were. It's not something we have. So for an Englishman to come and to add to this is really a wonderful thing. Okay, so
can I just add something in here, Nina, because you did ask about, well, maybe not, I mean, certainly the inspiration, but I mean, part of all of this, part of the writing really was trying to get across this idea of the fusion of cultures, both in the Balkans. You know, the Turkish, the Slavic, the people coming from Italy. It's really such a, you know, it's an overused phrase, but it's a real sort of melting pot of cultures. And how, this is just my rather naive, possibly, interpretation or my view of things, but there's such an interweaving of cultures in the Balkans, as there are in the UK as well, of course. But and part of that, part of the interwovenness of the culture, I think, is reflected in Sonya's use of all the different materials, the wood, the metal, the crochet work, the needlework that she referred to. It's reflected so much in that, and also I particularly wanted, once you told the story, and having been to well, this Bikiada, which happened in Croatia, actually, which took place in Croatia, having visited Travnik and visited Jajce nearby, it all just so lended itself to this fusion of, and also using this old English style of the epic style, which of course reflects in a way, the Balkans has its own epic style of poetry as well. It was just a real fusion of stuff, and I thought it was just, and that everybody and all cultures bring value to a place. I think that's really what I wanted to get across.
Fantastic, Nick. I wanted to show everybody before we wrap up how Sonya's work brought us a real acclaim, as it were. I mean, we like to say so, but as I mentioned in the beginning, Sonya in the end ended up exhibiting this series, Blacksmith and the Bull, together with her other pieces from other series, in a start exhibition at Saatchi Gallery, which went on for a whole week. Her work was really noticed there, to the point that she is now being invited to be a part of their groundbreaking new television and online gallery. So I wanted to show you a really short clip, maybe 20 seconds or so, of Sonya at that exhibition. And I chose this bit just because it shows the pieces that you've been looking at tonight in this beautiful atmosphere of a Saatchi Gallery exhibition. So Lola, my colleague Lola, is here with us, helping produce.
I onda kreće jedna serija tih mojih drvenjaka. Evo, ovo je neki format 50 cm. I onda nalazim nešto od čega ja počinjem da slikam. Evo ovdje vidite ove nozdrve, na primjer. A tekstura drveta za mene je nešto izuzetno.
So we did have a question from Sally Young, who asked about where one can see Sonya's art. Sonya is a very accomplished artist who has exhibited in hundreds of the most beautiful galleries really throughout the world. And her work can be seen on her website. So I will be sending a feedback request with the links you can click on and see the rest of her art, really. As she said at the beginning, she's really a figurative artist, works on huge paintings, paints women a lot, which is what I love. There, she's in her studio now.
I don't know, I didn't really prepare myself to do what I'm doing, but the last series was the mothers and daughters. It's all to do with the lockdown, but this is a different story. What I wanted to say, actually, we always said it's 12 pieces, Nina, but in the book it's only 11 pieces. It just come to my head. And you know, when I start painting this series of the Blacksmith and the bull, actually, lady came to my studio and she wanted to buy something completely different. I think she wanted a mask or something. And then you were the first one I painted. And I didn't really have idea that I'm going to do all series. And she came and she said, I want to buy this. And I sold it. And now in a Saatchi, actually, I didn't want to sold piece by piece because I felt really sorry to, you know, all these 11 pieces I wanted them to be together. But maybe now it's a little surprise for you and for everybody. I painted Nina again.
Nina too.
Oh, what?
Nina too.
It's a little bit different, but as you all know, you can't ever produce the same piece. And now we got Nina back into our collection. Congratulations to, I don't know to who, I just going to add her to all 11 pieces. Now we can say it's 12. And then maybe we need to produce another book.
Yes, somebody did say, is there any more book? Is there a part 2 in the making?
Yeah, that was Jenny. Yeah.
That was Jenny.
Yeah.
English
Well,
story.
Jenny, we'll have to look into that. I need to go travel. We need to go traveling again.
Yeah.
Eva, we have a comment from Vesna who says, the wood was symbol of the ancient Slavs and red was the color of the noble. Your images are noble and old, and it reminds us of the past. Beautiful emergence of all and lovely as it would be expected from you. Congratulations. So thank you, Vesna. That's very wonderful.
Thank you, Vesna. That was an idea. Thank you very much.
And Judith Jones says, an unusual online evening, giving an insight into the culture of a part of the Balkans we normally hear about only when there is trouble, which is probably exactly, Judith, why we feel that we want to make programs like this, or why we wanted to do a book and why we wanted to do a presentation of Sonya's art in the Bosnian embassy and in other places, just because Bosnia is this beautiful place, really, truly beautiful, but we feel we are at the crossroads of human cultures through a lot of our history, certainly the last 1,000 years. And it seems like whenever there is a conflict, everybody just comes to our land, and that's where it happens. That's the what do we call it, the stage for a lot of this kind of thing. So to give it a different flavoring, a different view is really gratifying for us. She particularly liked the Beowulf style epic poetry recounting the brutal battle between bellowing bull and the artful artificer. I think
nicely alliterated, yeah.
There you go, Nick. Okay.
Sorry, Nina. Yeah, go on.
No, please go ahead. I'll just carry on until you stop me. Go on. More Balkan music, please. They want. We could have had some music.
You think she's joking, people, but no, that is true. I mean, I think the idea of, I mean, for many people in the UK, the Balkans is always seen, or the one of the things people remember most about it. Of course, Sarajevo and the wars in the early 1990s is prominent in people's minds, but maybe before that, you know, this idea of it being, you know, the tinderbox of Europe and the beginning, and where, you know, the First World War was triggered. It's always sort of somewhere remote and easily dismissed, I think, by people in Western Europe. And I was really trying to sort of add a different, you know, a bit of texture to that, a bit of history, and this idea that we all have. Oh, there's the book there. We all have sort of histories which we make ourselves. It comes down to people in many ways. That's all, Nina.
Okay, that's great. I just wanted to, there was a question from Suzanne who says, very lovely and interesting talk, eye-catching artworks. Are there any written story collections from Bosnia and Balkans to which you could point us? Would love to read more. Thank you for an inspiring talk. So I thought this was a good slide. We actually have a slide with some other sources of information. So Sonya's art, actually the film about the Saatchi Gallery exhibition, the full film is quite a long one, I think much longer than we had tonight. Then there's some information on Balkan history, but also further reading. I will copy this slide and send you.
Nina, if people just put my name, Sonya Radan Artist, they can find my website very easily. And it's this whole series on wood I call the recollection of wood. Actually, I thought the name recollection, it's not only when I saw them, I collect them, and I also like remembering, try to think what's happened as I described before. And yeah, Blacksmith and the Bull, it's the only part, it's only 12 pieces of that recollection of wood.
If I can add a couple of things, I mean, with regards narrative, you know, storytelling from the area from the Balkans. Of course, there is Ivo Andrić, who's a really big name. I think he was writing. Nina, you can correct me when I tell you wrong. 1930s, 1940s, that sort of time, and he was born in Travnik. Yeah. And
he got a Nobel Prize, actually. He won a Nobel Prize.
A Nobel Prize winner, yeah. That's right. And for further, you know, other media, indeed. We're also about to start the Sarajevo Film Festival, which is starting, I think, this summer, which is being held this summer, and that might prove interesting for people as well. Just thinking about it, you can always log on, but do check whether, unless of course you speak Bosnian, Croatian, Serbian, or Serbo-Croat, then you would want it in English. So do check. There are some good English translations there, or some translations into English anyway. Whether they're good or not, niko ne zna.
Okay,
anyway, there we go.
Brilliant. So we've come to the end of our allocated time. I'd like to thank everybody who's joined us tonight. I know that there were some friends, even some relatives in the audience tonight, but also some people to whom I hope this is a completely new experience, because this is what we were after. The pictures you are seeing now are from the Bosnian embassy, where we had, it was mentioned before, I think, where we had this, like, where Susana Serda read the poem in Serbo-Croat or Croato-Serb, which we refer to as our language to avoid any of these declarations. So thank you, everyone. I hope you liked it. I was a little bit shy about it, but and I'm so sorry I made those slides go blurry in the middle, but hopefully it wasn't too bad. I'll let my friend Sonya and Nick say good night, and it's good night from me on behalf of Kensington and Chelsea Libraries. Good night, and come and join us again.
Laku noć.
Good night. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Yeah,
And have a
stay
little
safe.
whiskey now. It's high time.
Or even better, rakia.
Oh, rakia, yes. Good night. Bye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.